Hi everyone, and welcome to another Star Wars Battlefront 2 modding tutorial. This one is a long-awaited tutorial I know a lot of people have asked for in the past, and it is on how to set up a new space map. So hopefully it won't take too long. This is just going to be, I'm probably going to divide this up into a few sections and a few separate videos, because there's a few very distinct topics to cover when it comes to setting up a new space map and getting it all taken care of so that it's just right and that it all works properly. Getting it in-game is no problem. It's very simple. It's just like setting up the basic stock ground map. It takes all of a minute or two to get it actually in-game, but then there's a few tweaks that you need to make to get it working properly, and then if you want it to be a fantastic space map, then that's going to take a lot more work. So I'm going to split it up into a few parts. Let's get started with that. To be honest, I have already created a basic space map that's all munged and everything, so that we don't have to do a whole bunch of cutting in and out when I munge things. And that is here. So our ground example map is the data ABC folder, and I've got this one here, data SPC, for the example space map that we're going to be working with here. To show you how to start a new space map, I'm going to show you just where you would go for that. You can go to data, and this is the template data folder. So you just go to data. It's not data ABC or data SPC or anything. It's just data, and build, and mod tools, visual munge, and this is how you. This is where you would create a new map. So if you were in your start menu and went to visual munge, Battlefront 2 mod tools. Oops. Hang on a sec here. Nope. Yeah, so you see if I try and open it up here, I don't really have my start menu set up very well, but basically if you have a start menu shortcut to just the Star Wars Battlefront 2 mod tools, then this is what you would get when you open that up, as opposed to having a shortcut to it, you know, here in ABC build. When I open this one up, it gives me all the ABC munging tools, so it's this bottom half here, and the top is grayed out. But if you go just into BF2 mod tools data build, then that brings up this, which gives you the top half, and the bottom is grayed out. So this is for creating a new world. So what I did here, I'm not going to actually press it, but what I did was I went 3-letter world name, SPC, and then I put in the name here, the description here, and you do have to change this. It's not going to let you just leave the default settings for any of these fields. And then all you do, it's really simple, just check space map and choose the game modes that you want to have in your space map. Now, since we did Clone Wars era for the ABC example map, when I created SPC, I made it a Galactic Civil War Assault. And you can do space capture the flag as well, but I'm just going to deal with Assault because that's a little simpler to work with for space maps when I'm just doing a tutorial here. So this is what I did. These are my settings. I changed the name to I think 1111 space sample, and then changed the description to something like a space map demo, and then I pressed create world, and then it took about 15 seconds to create that, and that is how I ended up with data SPC. Now the same thing, you want to do the same thing as you did with your ground map, which is right away head into data SPC and choose the visual munge program, and you just want to select all and munge, and then that takes a couple of minutes the first time, goes through everything and gets it all ready to go, so you can actually run the game right away. And in fact, I'll just show you what it looks like when you first open it up. I promise I have not made any changes whatsoever to the map. So here it is, 111 space example, space assault, Galactic Civil War. So this is what you will see, this is exactly what you will see when you first create your first space map. Place the rebels. So we've got the hangar set up, all the vehicles are already here, so you don't need to set up any vehicle spawns yourself. And we've already got 2 capital ships with all their destroyable systems, so the comms array, and then you've also got 1 frigate per side. And I died. So anyway, you can see that it is set up, and it's a very basic configuration. The capital ships are just right across from each other at roughly the same height level. So it's pretty boring, but it is functional. Aside from one thing, which has to do with the points and how the point system works when you are destroying critical systems on a ship. And that's the first thing I'm going to show here, which is how to fix that. So I'm actually going to show you the GameToast.com forum post that deals with this. So as you can see, the problem is if you repair the internal critical system, then somebody blows up the external, you take the blame for the death of the internal system. Wow. So that is 18 points against you. So if you're making a space map, you probably don't want this glitch to be part of it. So this is what you would do. There's a line here down at the bottom. I'll save you having to read through all of this. And the line is set property object name team 0. And we insert that line into one of the scripts for the space map. So I'm just going to copy that and go to data SPC, common, scripts. And what we want to do is go to the linked destroyables script. Now in this folder here, outside of your map 3-letter code name folder, just in common scripts, these are all scripts that are involved in different areas of the game. Some of them are game mode scripts, some of them are shell and interface scripts, and some of them are just various scorekeeping and point assignment scripts. So we want to just find linked destroyables, because that's the problem we're dealing with right now. Edit with Notepad++. And this basically sets up the system for destroyables, destroyable objects that are linked together. So for example, if you are flying around in your Y-wing bomber and you destroy the engines from the outside, then on the inside of the ship, that glowing green engine tank is also going to be destroyed at the same time, even though they're 2 separate objects. So all we need to do is find this part here. So this is the beginning. Under linked destroyables equals, there's the object sets section, the new section, and then we go down to the init section. And you don't need to know what all this stuff means necessarily, unless you want to make your own crazy modifications to the linked destroyable system, which you are absolutely welcome to do. You just need to go down here to this little indented section that has a bunch of for loops. So it goes for, if, and inside this section, inside this for loop here, it says for blank. This is a blank variable. Object name in pairs do. So inside that we have if is object alive object name, then kill object. And that's all it does. So basically, if the object that is linked with the object that was destroyed is alive, then it gets killed. It sounds silly, but that's what it is. So all we need to do here is copy and we paste that line in above kill object. So that way you don't get penalized whenever that object gets resurrected and subsequently destroyed again. The object is going to be set to a neutral team. Yeah, and that's all we need to do. So we can save that and close it. I know that seems kind of like a weird and maybe pointless thing to do, but trust me, your players will be much happier if they're not losing 18 points for something they didn't do. Now we can get to the other part of getting started here, which is changing the layout of the map. And this is a bit of a pain, I'll be honest. I'm going to load up spc.world. And here we are in the map. So you'll notice there's no terrain per se. There's no ground, obviously, because it is a space map. And we can float around and see the inside workings of the ship. Come on over here, see the Imperial ship. So let's say we want to move the Imperial ship. We're going to need to know which objects are going to be moving. There are quite a few objects that are part of each ship, and by quite a few I mean dozens, at least 40 or 50. And if you are really ambitious, you could move one at a time. I really don't recommend that because it's quite difficult to get everything fitting together nicely again. But if you want to do that, go for it. So before we even get started with that, let's explore what the scene looks like here, how the objects and regions and everything are laid out. Everything inside the map here is stored in the GCW ships layer. So there's not really anything in the base layer. So I'm just going to switch over there right away. And now you can see if I go into the object selection screen, I can actually start selecting things. And to give you an idea of how complex this scene is, I will scroll through the entire list of objects that we have in this layer. So there we have it. There are well over 100 objects here. And you can see, just due to the size of everything, like even the capital ships are broken up into 4 or 5 parts each, just the basic structure. And then we have the turrets, and we have the individual rooms, the hangar, the engine room. We have the individual objects as well. We've got the engine. There are auto turrets. And there's the exterior destroyable objects as well. So we've got the bridge there. And the engines. There's a lot to work with here, but it can be done. It just takes a little effort. The other things we are working with here are paths, and there's only 2 paths because there's of course only 1 command post per ship. So we've got the Alliance CP1 spawn and the Imperial CP1 spawn. So I've got that selected here, and you can just see that basically there's just 2 points, one here, one here. There's the region list here, and there's only a few regions as well. I will go over the significance of them in more detail later, but just to go over that each side has a death region, because of course if you hop into the spinning fan blade, you're going to die. So these are death regions, and those are they're scripted in the common script file for the map. And then you've got the control regions for each hangar. And as I mentioned in the vehicle tutorial, control regions are essentially regions that help you spawn vehicles and determine whether the vehicle needs to decay and die or whether it's safe. And these regions actually also serve as the landing regions because by default, if your flying vehicle is outside of a landing region, it can't land, because you may notice you can't land, say, on top of the Star Destroyer here, but you can land inside the hangar, and that's due to this region here. That's also part of the common script file, and we'll have a look at that a little later. And that's really all there is in here. There's not a lot in the way of AI, anything like that. There's nothing like that. Not a whole lot I can talk about aside from that. So let's look at moving, let's say, the Star Destroyer. So here comes the fun part, determining which objects are actually on the Star Destroyer, because a lot of them have nice names. You can see the names of like these objects here. I'll start with all, which stands for Alliance, and these are the all engines. We've got the door, drive, consoles, turrets. It's great. And then we've got some that are not as appropriately named. So we've got CIS prop computer, and you're like, what? There are no CIS on this map, and you'd be right if you were saying that. But there are props that are borrowed from the CIS assets, and I'm holding down C here so that I can get the axes and kind of pinpoint where this is. This is a trick that I use. You might have a different way of determining where some godforsaken object is on the map, but that's what I use. I hold down C and I can see the axes lines point to it being there. And I believe all the CIS computers are, if I just kind of scroll through them quickly here, I believe they're all in the Imperial ship. I'm just going to scroll through. Yeah, there aren't any in the Alliance ship, so that's something we can note, that all the computers, the CIS computers, are in the Imperial ship. And we've got this hallway. You can always check, this is the instance name, it's been called hallway, but if you look at the actual ODF name, it's all cap Rebel Cruiser hallway, so that is obviously going to be on the Alliance ship. Imp, here we go, we've got the big long list of Imperial props, and then we've got these other vaguely named ones. Sensors spin 0, looks like that one is on the Imperial ship, and sensor spin 1, which is, I'm gonna guess, on the Alliance ship. I think I see it way off in the distance there. Yeah. Shield fan all on Imp, and then we've got the Imp ship turrets, Imp doors. There's a few chain guns, and those are all in the Alliance ship. Yeah. Anyway, very poorly named. If you want to go through and rename all these so that it's easier to deal with, then please go ahead. I don't really feel like doing that right now, so I'm not going to, but I am going to remember all of those, hopefully. When I select them all, I'm going to group select them and move them. And that's going to be the first step. I'm just going to move the objects all together for the Imperial ship. And we'll go from there. So to do that, I'm going to go to, I'm in object mode by the way, I'm going to go to multi-select, and if you haven't used this before, here are the basic controls. You left click to select something, and you can left click that same thing to deselect it. And to select more than one object, you just left click, and just keep left clicking. I don't have to hold down shift or anything like that. So I'm just left clicking over and over again. And if I want to clear my selection, so I've got a bunch of things selected and I don't want to have to left click all of them, I would just take any space and just right click. I can even right click on the object itself. So left click, and I want to get rid of that, right click. And it's gone. Middle click I don't think does anything. So anyway, you can do that by actually physically clicking on the objects in the world, or you can just select the item in here, as far as I know. So if I click Imp Bridge, It should be selected now. No? Okay. Apparently not. So I was wrong about that, and that makes this about 10 times more interesting and less fun. Yeah. Well, the good news is, here's what we can do. We can go through and select everything, and I mean absolutely everything. It's probably best to work from the from the inside out, because once you've selected a large object, you have to kind of go inside it to select the smaller objects. Yeah, so here we go. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and do the move. Here we go. So with all these selected, with every single little component that we just spent the last 5 to 10 minutes selecting, here we go. And I can't really see it all. I guess I can do this. I can go to the camera settings and set the visibility range to something like 3000. 3002, 3001. There we go. I can see much further now. And here we go. I'm going to hold down C, and you can see all this stuff. And let's move it on the x-axis. Looks like I might have missed a couple things there. See that? The 2 black dots. That's okay. We'll go back for those. I'm going to move it further away. And I think one ship is higher than the other. So I'm maybe going to move... Yeah, the Star Destroyer is higher. I'm going to move it down, so that they are a little closer to the same level. Let's have a look what I missed over here. Oh, a couple of doors. Oh boy. I have no idea where those came from either. But we'll have a look in here and maybe find out. So they're facing... Okay, tell you where one went missing. And there's the other one. So these, I guess I just missed the doors to these areas. That's too bad. But everything else seems to be intact, so that's good. I'm not seeing any other little props missing. Just looking around. Yeah, I think we got everything aside from those 2 doors, so that's great. If you hold down, normally you use X to rotate something, but watch this. I've got these all selected still, and I don't want these to individually rotate. That's going to screw everything up. I want them to rotate as one whole object. So here's what I'm going to do. Hold Z, or Z, and it'll rotate this whole thing as one global object. So let's do that. Let's rotate this thing, and you can see it all rotates nicely, like it is actually one big Star Destroyer instead of a whole ton of independent objects. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. So let's, I'm going to do a really weird space layout and make these almost at 90 degrees to each other, and continue moving things around, make the Star Destroyer a little closer. So basically, now let's rotate it again. Be very careful not to use X rotate. There we go. Okay, cool. And maybe I'll move it down a little bit too. So you kind of, if you're attacking from the Star Destroyer, you have to go up and kind of turn. Let's rotate it some more. There we go. Turn 90 degrees to get to the other hangar, get to the other ship. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I've got this saved as a group, so if I need to reselect it, in theory I can. Anyway, I've got it as a group, so I can load the group, and I can do this, open, and I can place everything again. Now, it looks all funny and exploded right now, but when it actually gets placed, it'll come together normally. Okay. So anyway, So that's good. We've moved the object. There are just a couple things missing, which I'm sure you've guessed by now, are the spawn paths. If I go to imp cp spawn, you can see that those, we're going to have units spawning in the middle of space and falling and dying. So that's kind of terrible. Let's fix that. I'm just going to completely, you can delete this, or you can actually right click to, in theory, move it, but unfortunately that doesn't work very well with no terrain. So I'm just going to create a new path altogether here. New path. And place it. So put 1 point there, 1 point there. And there we go. Okay, so we've got the 2 points in there. Let's go to the move tool and rotate them so that they're facing a good direction. Okay, there we go. So now let's make sure we rename it correctly here. I'm just going to select the command post, maybe. There we go. So the spawn path, imp-cp1 spawn. Path tool here. Imp-cp1 spawn. And there we go. And there's a couple regions that got left behind as well. And these are just easy to move, so I'll just move them down to the right spot, maybe. You can't see through these objects, so it's kind of tricky sometimes. But if we put that there and adjust that, there we go. So we've got the death region in the right spot, and let's just move the control region into the right place as well. There we go. Rotate. And this, you want the control region to take up pretty much the whole hangar. You don't want it outside at all. That's a bad thing. Okay, I think that's pretty good. You know, can land in the hangar now, and yeah, okay. So now, in theory, everything should be fully functional. I'm going to save the world. And I can't think of a single other thing that needs to be done here. So I'm actually just going to close Zero Editor now. So let's go ahead and munge now. This is really simple. We only changed the map and a script, so we're just going to keep common selected and everything else can stay the same. So the destroyables gets munge. Okay, we're all done. Close that. And let's open up the mod tool program. Head to our space example map. Let's give this a try. Now, I may have screwed things up because honestly I don't have a ton of experience with space maps. But it's looking pretty promising because there's a big fat Star Destroyer blocking our view, which wasn't there before. And look at this. Look there, you can see up on that right angle that the Mon Calamari cruiser, hey, that's my TIE fighter. The Mon Calamari cruiser is at right angles to our ship. So by fly out. Look at this. Alright, so that works pretty well. Oh, actually, just before I quit, I'm going to respawn. And let's just make sure all these doors work. You can see that, look at that, the door works fine. This one as well works just fine. We can see everything seems to be working okay here too. Got the fan, and yep, got the death region there too. Which maybe could be a little bit lower, because I don't think you're supposed to die that quickly when you jump in, but anyway. That's the basic setup for a space map. What I'm going to do now really quickly is just show you in the Lua files what I was talking about when I mentioned the setup for landing zones and for the death region. So if I go to Common, Scripts, SBC, and just go to the Common Lua file, GCMN, we can scroll through here, and down here there is the region setup right at the bottom. So it's very simple. There's an add death region function, and you just go add death region and put in the name of the region, which means that as soon as any unit enters that region, they die instantly. There's no getting around it. It just kills you. And then add landing region is the same thing. So you basically just put in add landing region and then the name of the region. In this case, we've got the two control regions, which are the hangar volumes, and that makes it so that ships can land in that region. Now, you don't have to worry about anything else really to do with those, just as long as you remember that the name and the property needs to be the same in Zero Editor. So the name and the property for this particular region is imp-cp1con, and you're good to go. So in another video, I will go over some of the more complicated stuff to do with setting up flyer splines, which are the paths that flying vehicles follow, and a few other things to do with linked destroyables and how the assault game mode works in space. But for now, this is enough to get you started, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask on the GameToast.com forums. Again, I do recommend setting up an account there if you don't have one already to ask any questions. I'll do my best to answer some questions in the YouTube comments here, but the YouTube comments just aren't set up very well for answering this kind of questions. So yeah, set up an account and ask away. There's lots of great people on the forums who can help you out. Remember, if you're having any troubles munging, that you need to install the Windows Vista 7, 8, 10 munge fix files, and you need to do that before you create a new map, because if you're doing it afterwards, then the files won't be installed correctly. I'm going to do a short tutorial today on how to get the fix files added to your map if you've already created the map before you install the munge fix, just in case anybody's interested in that. But yeah, that'll do it for now, and thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.